it is.
All right. We solved it. We're back. Let's give people a second to join back on live here. What I
Tick
miss?
just exploded here. Not much, just a bit of chop, but resistance at 80.
All right, cool. All right, quick update on the market then, Space Monkey. We've got some questions. Are you in any trades right now or just watching? Just want to...
No, just watching.
Just watching? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
You want an update on SPX?
Yeah, let's do a quick update on SPX.
Okay. All right, so intraday, we're seeing a little bit of the same kind of patterns that we talked about earlier could happen. So we saw a nice little failed breakdown on SPX. We swept yesterday's lows and pushed about 30 points higher into that 6481 resistance that I have on my charts. 6481, 80 area now provided a nice little short down towards that 6465. So the question here is, do we get a lower high, or are we trying to build a little bit of a low here intraday for a push above 81, and then perhaps a move back towards 6500? But all in all, I think it could get a little choppy here, unless we start breaking the low day or recover 6481.
Nice. Yeah, we pulled gamma up. We basically tested the bottom of that condor, pretty much the same as yesterday, just inverted. Let's see what the positioning looks like real quick here. So pretty much the same. We do have a peak at 64.62. We're in suppressive charm, which will become more important into the end of the session here, but is going to make bounces a little bit harder. 6,500 could be a target above if we hold this spot. Nice. All right, let's get into some questions. Somebody on X asked us a question for you, Space Monkey, on the SBX 6443 call. Was that a B, or C setup? Given the IV incoming, do you do a call spread, and upside target and stop, please?
What was the call again?
He said 6443, which as I was reading that, I realized were...
Okay, so I think it's the bounce off of 6443.
Yeah, the bounce off of 6443.
Yeah. Yeah, so I did call it out as a possible long in commentary because of the failed breakdown, and I would grade it B, actually, over there. Especially after this, 80 points down, you're getting into the other extreme of the IC. So that's support, and then a failed breakdown mixed with that, I think is super powerful. It's like the best area to go long if you're interested in catching this, really ugly move lower. So grade B.
It's funny, that's sort of where the trade set up yesterday, too, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the
same. It is, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's almost as an identical look, aside from the context of selling into it, a much more aggressive sell into it compared to yesterday, obviously. Very key pivot for the market, though. It's also have a trend on the daily that started the week. We started the week off below it, recaptured it. That's actually a back test of that trend that we got today. Held that spot. All right, cool. Let's see what else we got. Somebody asked, is this the beginning of seasonality, a trade where the market reverses? So bearish September, which, yes, the short answer is yes. September is historically the, most bearish month in the market. And we started off the week starting the September session with a big gap down. But as you saw, for me, while that is true, it's as a trader, you have to take it one session at a time. As you saw it this week, keeping an open mind, we reversed 4 days straight, pretty much higher, right? So, Swing, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts of that, but I like to take things one step at a time, and then keeping some of the macro things, some of the seasonality in mind, especially while if certain setups stop working as well, just being overall aware of that, I think is important as you approach trading.
Yeah, I think seasonality is one of those things that I think I have in the back of my mind, but I'm not gonna let it dictate how I trade intraday. We are day traders, so I think we can afford ourselves the luxury and flexibility, or the luxury of flexibility, meaning we could just watch price action and just trade it. And so right now, if you ask me, we're still on an uptrend. As long as we're in an uptrend, I'm just gonna buy dips unless that uptrend breaks. The break actually happened on Monday, but it was with a gap down, which made it interesting, right? And that gap down got bought up very quickly, and then we've seen a real nice push into new all-time highs. So, unless you're one of those that like to guess the top and try to short the top and all that, then maybe it's something to consider here, going short. Maybe longer term, I would not until we have some real structural damage on the daily, at least on SPX. So yeah, just take one day at a time.
Yep, for sure. Will this be recorded? Yes. Easy question. Somebody asked, how do we explain the huge drop in the market today? I might be missing something here, but not seeing any catalysts or news that could explain the aggressive sell-off. So we had big data today. Non-farm was highly anticipated. We've been talking about it throughout the week as being, a tone setter of sorts for the weeks ahead. And you're seeing, the market react. I think, despite diving into a lot of the information, it came in okay enough to where the Fed funds futures rates are pricing in the rate cuts. We got what we wanted. It wasn't like a Goldilocks print or anything like that. So you didn't see a very big rally. And so I think context here is important. With that being said, being good enough, but not, anything super unusual. Putting that in the context of the fact that the market, if you look at S&P, has trended from the Tuesday low to today's open high, 171 points. So it's almost 3% in a very short period of time. So, taking the big picture context into account is important. Moving 170 points and then pulling back pretty directly and then pulling back 90 is not highly unusual, especially with such an anticipated data point coming out. So I think what we're seeing here is, price digesting, some profit taking into the weekend. I don't think that there's really a big narrative shift. I think you would agree, Space Monkey. It's there's nothing overly concerning. It's just, I think, purely price action playing out here. But feel free to add your thoughts to that.
Yeah, nothing to add really. Just
Cool.
I really care very little about what's going on. I pay attention to macro and all that. Sometimes, some periods, macro matters more. 2022, it mattered a lot more than what it does now, in my opinion. For me, I just trade the charts.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and I think
Yeah, I'll add.
Yeah, go ahead, J Money.
I'll add one thing. I think it's always important, as day traders, to remember that, the NFP data release is a catalyst, that just affects the intraday technicals. The actual print today and the reaction today are not necessarily indicative of what institutions think about the data. We don't see the immediate reaction. The technicals are usually what drives the price action today. So like you said, we had a massive parabolic rally. We swept all-time highs and then failed back below, and then we sold and we retraced. So it's not always it was because of the data print, they were bad numbers or good numbers or whatever it was. The technicals and the intraday price action are still mostly what drives the reaction today. And the technicals match up really with what we saw, this massive rally, look above and fail at the highs, and then a retracement. And really all we did was back test, some structure from yesterday. So that stuff usually is the main driver on today. We'll see the rest of it play out over the weeks and months to come, and how it affects the rate decision and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, great point. And I just want to call out, this setup today. Let's see if I can get it updated, because the last 2 days, as a trader, we've had a setup with the positioning in the market where, as J Money was alluding to, unless there is a very big unexpected report, which you would see an immediate reaction to, it's very technically driven. So today there's a very large condor in the market, and this was the last 2 days. And what's significant here is that the positioning in between the legs of the condor is very thin, and just like yesterday. So what tends to happen is the technicals will be a bigger driving force of where we head, and we saw that play out both days, where there's freedom to move within the range technically, and while price is contained by those very large positions. So this data is from Options Depth. If you guys are curious, we use this daily to help kind of paint the picture of where S&P is at and how positioning looks. It does a really good job of telling you what type of environment you're in. So that's see, we're starting to push back over that 64.81 as we're talking. Just want to call that out. Any other setups that show up? If you guys see, something moving, just, we're doing a Q&A, but if there's trades that set up, we will interrupt the streaming and call that out. Yeah. Just throwing that out.
I just called it out to the team. Actually, the 64.80s moved from 4 to 750 here, off of the hold of the 63, 64 area, which is the 9-day. So we're building a little bit of a higher low here. Break above 64.81. It's going to be interesting to see a bigger move into 500 actually.
Very nice.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Let's look at our position. Yeah. All right.
UNH looks good too. Watch the high day break. That could be a scalp today.
Yeah, UNH looks good. Still holding half of the 315 calls. Those are at $1.20, $1.25 from 70 cents yesterday. I think that UNH is behaving a little bit different finally. That 310 has been very difficult to clear, but it's also been aggressively bought up on dips into 300 and just above 300. So a little bit of a behavioral change today, starting to come out of this daily consolidation. I have 316.40. This is the prior peak from Monday, August 18th. We tested that today. That's a key level. If we can pop above that, I believe ATR is around 319 and change. Let's see. So another target above 316 would be 319.80 on the session. All right, let's see if there's some other questions. Any plans to take weekly or monthly swings working full time, and handling day trades is getting stressful? It's a good question. So I actually have been doing that. I've been putting some more swings on with the account challenge that we're doing. I'm looking for those sorts of opportunities while we're in bullish environment to make things easier, simpler. So we do have some swings. If you look in the alerts, you'll see a lot of times I'll call out in the description, like in all caps, swing. So we try to categorize that, and that's something that we'll look to continue to do. Space Monkey can speak for himself, but he's very much a momentum day trader. I'm a little bit of both. I would not classify myself as a swing trader, but sometimes a little bit of a position trader, a bigger picture idea trader. So I will classify those alerts. Right now we have UNH, BABA, and Tesla swing trades on in that account. So if you have any questions about that, just shoot me a DM. Or there's a lot of setups also that we talk about that are big picture that will trade on the lower time frame. There's simple setups that you can approach the same type of alert or setup, usually from a bigger picture with a swing or buying some more time. So if you have questions on some strategies to approach that, feel free to shoot me a DM. Happy to discuss that. One thing just on that topic, and guys, feel free to chime in, but when you're working and not able to watch the market, something simple that I would focus on if I were you is, so like we post a daily market recap every day, right? This is something that is a daily effort. We put a video out, we review the entire market, we talk about our active positions, we go over the watch list for the next day. So a system or process that I would focus on if I were you is, and you can ask questions with some of this if you're unsure, is look at the watch list, look at some of what's being talked about, and then set alerts around specific areas that are being mentioned of bigger trades. So, there's some trades that are a bit smaller, day trade scalps, but then there's also bigger picture ideas that will follow certain names for days on end. MDB is a good example of this. I was pounding the table last week on this, on the day 1, day 2 trade, but a lot of these are great swing trades as well. So with something like this, this is something that you can certainly look for more of a swing, lower maintenance type of trade. And there's different strategies to get involved with names like this. If I were you, I'd focus on names like that have bigger catalysts or changing fundamentals that are likely to trend or make bigger moves, where you can go out and buy more time and just create a simple strategy around that. So setting up an alert when something crosses. You can even create conditional orders. So I don't know what broker you use, but if you're using like Thinkorswim or Centerpoint or something, I'm pretty sure most major brokers, you can do custom ordering where you can set, okay, buy, like on MDB, you could say buy 30 calls for October when price crosses 321.74, and set your size. And you can even attach bracket orders to that to take profit. So if you can't watch it, you say you buy 4 contracts or something, you could sell one at 20%, 40%, 60%, whatever it might be. You can set that with a stop into where really you don't even have to watch it. So if you're busy with work, you can focus on that and let some of those trades play out. All right, let's see what other questions we got. I'm just reading some of the feed, guys.
One of the members calling out that they also work full-time or unable to watch the market, but they've made it, they've created a system around the first half an hour or so of the market and just trade that most.
Yeah.
And that could be something too, right? It's a way of trading, and if you're able to do that, even for just half an hour, then that's something that you could focus on.
Yeah.
Often people think of swing as like the only thing that you could do if you're working, but you could also just trade the open. Become really good at that.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. It's becoming specialized. And there's actually somebody that's been with us for a very long time who does that, and they have some days are, I think today in particular, like they have some Fridays where it's like very relaxed, or they're off certain Fridays. You can become a bit of a specialist. We have a pretty diverse playbook. Not that our playbook's the only playbook to trade, but you could do that where you focus on opening drives, or in the first 30 minutes or an hour, say you're focus on names, stocks in play that set up intraday patterns or setups, or maybe you're trading gamma. There's a lot of, the cool thing about the market is, there's a lot of different ways to approach it, and everyone has a little bit, different take for sure, but you can kind of make it your own in a way, right? Where you customize it based on what, not only your availability, but also your style. It's a good question from a member. I've been really trying to focus on in-play names and taking the entry I thought was correct. Then there are times I see what I did wrong, and there's times I don't. How do I know if my review is accurate or wrong? And I'm learning or if it's like learning the wrong material, basically saying like objectively reviewing a trade and knowing like whether you made a mistake or not. And yeah, there's a little bit to unpack there, but I think ultimately, when you have a setup like a defined trade, what's important is to like any setup that becomes a playbook trade is going to be as a result of seeing something consistently work. So like, for example, there are, opening drives will have certain characteristics. Let's see, there was one like MDB recently, right? Like certain opening drives will have different consistent characteristics. And so, there's a couple things to consider. I think you should be basing your sell rules off of what other setups have done previously, what price action is doing. But it's also important to understand that there's a lot of variance and nuance in the market. There's not every setup is identical. So big picture, I think what's important is if you have a plan for a trade, you have to decide what your plan is, your thesis, your signal, your risk, and then if you fall, like your job is to, I call it a PDR, like positive decision rate, is to follow through on that consistently. So like because there's variability in the market, you want to try to reduce the variability in your decisions as much as possible. So say you have like and this starts at having something defined that you do every day, whether it's, buying on 9 on 10 or an opening drive or, front side short or whatever trade that you focus on or are focused on as it applies to your strategy. It should be consistent as much as possible, but while understanding that there's variance in the market itself. So like even MDB here for opening drives, this was like a very good one that we took. But on the open, a nuance with names like this is often names that are a bit spready will have these, opening reactions often because of an imbalance or something else where the options aren't quite settled yet. And then it kind of plays catch up. A lot of these opening drives that I could go and show you a bunch of different reps will just go straight on the open. They won't look back at all. MDB was like a little bit nuanced where it actually wicked higher first and then it went. So, if your plan is to, take the opening drive and you end up getting stopped out because of, a wick or something that didn't go quite as planned, you did your job. Like that's what you're supposed to do is follow your plan. And then you consider the progress over the aggregate. So you don't want to focus too much on one trade. Like and then you want to objectively learn from the results of the trade. So say you take 20 opening drives and you stay consistent within it. I'm buying the break, just to give a hypothetical simple example, I'm buying the break at the pre-market high, risking the pre-market low pivot, right? Like as just one example. There could be times where, like in this case, it briefly breaks the pre-market low and then ends up working anyways. What's more important is that you follow your plan over 20 trades, not the one that was a little bit trappy, because you can always get back in later, like to set up a flag, and then you could have participated then, right? So like what's needs to be consistent as much as possible, and it's easier said than done, of course, is being the constant variable as much as possible to reduce some of the natural or like given variability that comes in the market, because it's not always the same. But what's more important is if you take 20 opening drive trades, are you profitable, right? If you did the same thing, and then say you're not profitable, and then this is just how you treat trading like a business of reviewing things objectively. You take 20 opening drives, you can objectively look at your execution through all of them, and if it's very consistent, and say you're not profitable, maybe there's no edge there, right? Or maybe you need to adjust your sell rules, or maybe your entry timing is off. Like that's where you can start to get into the nitty gritty and analyze what is working, what's not working. It could be you, it could be the setup. The setup might just not have edge, or maybe it's diminished or something. But you won't know the answers to those questions unless you have an aggregate of trades to kind of review. Not just one specific trade. But it's a good question. I think maintaining an objective mindset in a review is not always easy, seeing things in hindsight, but that would be my long-winded response to that. So anything to add, Space Monkey? You even remember the question?
I would just yeah, I think it's all about like being honest with yourself. Make sure you're journaling and look at things as quantitatively as possible, and just trust the system. So if you basically notice that you have a play, let's say a failed breakdown that works 8 out of 10 times, that is probably a play that you should focus on and do that over and over again, and just keep collecting data. And then once you have enough data, when that setup presents itself, you just react. There's not a whole lot of thinking about it because you can rely on the data to take that trade. So I think that's a very like pro way of doing it, and I think it's something that I think a lot of newer traders maybe don't do enough, and that's why they hesitate. They question. They don't know which of their setups. They might not have any setups at all, but they might not know that okay, failed breakdowns work 8 out of 10 times. But if you do the work, then you'll have the stats to rely on, to lean on, and I think that's super important.
As they follow-up question, do you have a checklist for review? When one is working on a playbook move, should they only be working on the specific play 10 to 20 times, or can you take all the playbook trades and see which plays best? I think it depends, at least for me, it depends on like where you're at in your trading career. Like I have a pretty diverse playbook, but what I'm thinking about is like the origin of it, and I think it depends on the person probably, but for me it was helpful to, I wouldn't say master, but really understand and get enough reps in one setup before you introduce another one. I think that's important. I think you have to the only way to really fully conceptualize a setup is if you've taken a number of reps in it. So whether that's 10, 20 trades, I think that is helpful because what starts to happen is you expand the playbook, and some people, might just prefer like 1 or 2 trades and they have edge in it, but they might only show up, 10 times a year, and they're sitting on their hands a lot of times. That might work for them. Other traders want to be active every single day, and through years of trading, you're going to see different types of setups do well in certain markets versus others, and so it's kind of a personal question, but like I'm pulling up the database here, and you can kind of see and reference this every day, where we've got a pretty diverse playbook to go to. I like to categorize things into like 3 main categories, almost like a formation if you're a sports fan, and then a play that you can run with that formation. So it's just how my brain works. It's not necessarily for everybody, but like a good example of this is like the fade setup. So a catalyst trade with a fade is a setup that Sarang has actually called a few of these out recently that I haven't taken a ton of reps in. So I'll just log them. I'll wait and see if they set up. Like here's one from the database. If I'm not, haven't taken a lot of reps, I'm not going to put much size on it. I'm going to wait and see a few of them play out, start to conceptualize them, then start to put risk on. And then like the natural evolution for me is you have a concept, you have an idea, you start tracking it, you start seeing it, and then you start putting a little bit of risk on. And then if that, if it has positive expectancy over a couple trades, you might start increasing your risk to more normal size. And then if that is also still profitable in the end after like 10 reps, 20 reps, then it can become a playbook trade to go to. So it's like, adding different plays to the playbook is how I think about it. And the way to do that is just getting reps, honestly. And also staying objective with yourself, making sure that is actually a setup and you can define it and repeat it over and over again. I think that's super important. So whether you work on a specific play 10 to 20 times and then move on to another one, or try to do a combination of that, is I think a personal question. Some people only have so much time in the day. It depends. If you're full time, maybe you can handle a couple at once, but yeah, so that would be what I would have to say about that. Here's a good question from HB. What characteristics do you look 4 to define a turn and a stock to confirm a bottom. Where's AVGO at? Space Monkey will like this one. Let's see. There's a couple things. So like just off the top of my mind, I quantify turn a couple different ways. So if the expectation is an aggressive turn, so like, you know, AVGO didn't do this, but it is a valid setup that could have played out where you'll get these aggressive turns. So, okay, let's just take a step back. So turns, for those that don't know what's being referenced here, often a stock that's gapping up, that's putting in like a give and go. And this isn't the only type of turn that might set up, but one example is a give and go. So you have a stock that gaps up, like AVGO, and then you have an immediate move down on the open. And then one of two things usually will happen for looking for that reversal back higher. Sometimes you'll get this very aggressive move back to the upside, and then a secondary kind of setup of that would be a first move down, and then you consolidate for a little bit, sometimes making new lows, sweeping those lows, and then turning higher. So there's a couple different nuances to these on which, you know, can set up based on the variables, but a couple ways to quantify it, and then on the momentum side is a prior bar. Like that would probably be the most aggressive way that I would define it. So it'd be nice if I could find an example. Let me see. So essentially, like if say you have like 2 5 bars down on the open or 3, before entering, I'd at least want to see the prior bar reclaim over the other one. That would be like an aggressive way to kind of quantify that price action is, you know, attempting to establish a bottom and then reversing. There's a bit of a character change. The second would be the easiest, which is that consolidation and turn. So kind of what AVGO is trying to do here is consolidate. And often the longer it takes, the more of a trend play it is. The shorter amount of time it takes, the more of a momentum trade that it is. So something on like AVGO here is once you have, you know, a bottom established, putting in a series of higher lows is good, and then breaking any kind of structure higher. So this isn't, you know, super developed yet, but maybe possibly later in the session, you might see something like this, where price kind of comes back up into here and then pushes. So like that push would be a break over this structure. So you have a bit of a pivot here that was established on an attempt to bounce that failed, made new lows. Now it's putting in a higher low. So for the trending plays, for me, it's higher lows usually, some kind of consolidation break, waiting for that right side of the trade to develop. For the momentum plays, the more aggressive ones, I try to wait for at least a prior bar. That's not always, that's like the framework. It's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes you might back test a key level and wick off of it really aggressively and just go immediately, and that's valid too for the momentum ones. So I don't know if that's, you know, a little too nuanced, but let me know if that helps. I don't know that there's like a perfect science to it, but what I try to do is make each decision a definable and repeatable one, if that makes sense. So that's a good follow-up question, J Money, as a person asking about an intraday or daily chart. I'd say you can chime in, but I would say it might have a little bit of the same kind of characteristics, but you're probably going to get more failed breakdowns on a daily chart. Let's do a quick pause, guys. Where are we at with the market? So is anything standing out to you? Or is it much of the same?
Nothing really. We're ranging below 64.80. We had a nice test of that 64.80-81 area just 20 or so minutes ago, and we're unable to move above. And so we might be curling here and perhaps push lower towards the low of day unless this holds here. The 9-day moving average is sitting right around the 65 area. So if that fails, we can see a bit of a heavier move lower. Looking at some of the other names, Apple, pretty heavy, was relatively strong. put in a lower high, now back under low a day. So it put in a failed breakdown of PM lows earlier in the session, showed some real nice strength, but it got sold into. So that one is very weak. And just across the board, just very choppy action, not a whole lot to do. The one I'm watching is Tesla to see if it could at some point start ramping higher. But for now, I don't see anything actually. So this is a really good time to just keep on talking.
Keep on chatting. Cool. We'll point out, and we mentioned this a little earlier, I think before the stream, but in terms of just quick gamma update, we have this peak that we're kind of fading into that can act as support. And then we mentioned this, and this is a great example. When the charm is suppressive, it just makes bounces much harder to get real follow through. And that will just increase in weight and magnitude as you get closer and closer to the end of the session. Just calling that out. Let's get into some more questions, shall we?
Sure.
Any thoughts on bringing credit spreads back? We used to do credit spreads. We stopped. I think it's mostly just a bandwidth thing. I do some spreads sometimes. I've been doing some flies. I'm not against bringing it back if people are interested. I think it's something that we could consider. But I know most of us don't trade a lot of spreads, so that's likely why. But I'll say it's something that with the dealer positioning and the information we have available to now with options depth, I do think the playbook. So we're designing a playbook for the gamma landscapes, and a lot of it's trading focused, but certain times, okay, like right now as an example, so certain times where we might be saying like, hey, there's heavy or suppressive charm, bounces might be tough, so don't trade calls, or just avoid calls, or be careful with calls. Obviously, if you're trading futures, it's a little bit different, but the main point is the premiums might be tougher, right? That might be something that we would say. And so what I'm trying to say is there might be while we might be avoiding calls, we may want to have a playbook set up for spreads, right? Like that could create something where it's like, okay, well, let's create a call spread and capture some of the theta. So I do think that we could expand the playbook to include a lot of that. But I would say there's a lot of things we're working on, and that right at the moment is a lower priority. But if there's enough people that are interested in it, it's something that we could consider. Here's a question: how do you link a thesis with a move and the variables? Let's say the variables are trash, but the thesis and play are triggering. My immediate thought to that is just size down. So like, to me, what matters most is hitting the best trades with size. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing. That nothing else to me matters as much. So if there's a setup in play, so an example might be there's like a decent breakout trade, but the market's not aligned. Maybe the market's gapping down a little bit, and there's like hardly any volume. R vol's not elevated on the name, and you open and you see a fast move through the level, right? Like something like that is something I'm okay to miss personally, or just size down, because in the end, to me, it doesn't really matter if you take that trade or not. What matters is catching an MDB, with size. That's more significant. I don't know if you have anything to add, Space Monkey or J Money, but if things aren't aligning, then it's either size down, and if you want to be active and protect risk, or you can pass.
That's exactly how I deal with those. Like that's why I can take these like quote unquote riskier trades, because I'm sizing down. So instead of going a full position, maybe I'll take an eighth of a position, and and just go for it, because there are some things that are lining up that I'm liking that for me could present itself as a trade. And even though it's a smaller position, like for example on a Friday when premium moves really nicely, it can make up for a really good trade. So use the size of your position to decrease your risk, but also allow yourself to trade in a risky market. That is, I think, a big thing. But yeah, nothing else to add.
Yeah, good point. I think reps are important, right? It's just understanding that sizing down at certain times is important, because if you size up on a trade like that and then it quickly reverses on you, and then you get stubborn and hold size too long, like that's such a negative impact on your account growth for something that doesn't deserve your risk, right? So like, think about risk as when you put it on, the whatever hand you're dealt should deserve the risk, and you should be equally as quick to cut trades that aren't working or might not have super strong variables that you are to take the trade in the first place. But yeah, it's a good question. Reps help you stay dialed into the market. So I think this is another thing that's personal. Like, I know traders that will literally sit there for 3 months and not do anything and wait for their like unique edge to show up and slam that. And then there's other traders that are active every single day. I think this comes down to the person. If you're doing things very actively or every day, you run the risk of decision fatigue. And some people handle that better than others. So, but at the end of the day, for me, I think having reps is important. It's like going to the gym, right? You have your reps 1 through 7 or something are practicing your form, muscle memory, but the muscle's not going to really grow until you hit 8, 9, 10, or you start to hit closer to failure. But those reps are still foundational to keep you dialed into what you're doing. Be able to show up every day. So for us, it's like, and you could relate it to sports too. You got to have practice where you're running a bunch of routes, throwing a bunch, getting a bunch of reps, right? Building that muscle memory, and then recognizing when someone's wide open, you got to hit that, right? So.
Guys, I'm watching Tesla long here. I'm watching 350 calls.
Tesla.
I'm liking what SPX is doing here, actually. I think SPX is just holding nicely. I'm liking how NVIDIA is holding relative strength here. Failed breakdown or recovering that overnight lows once again, Apple, and so it's just in a range here. So I'm curious to see what Tesla does. I might take an in the money 347.52. So just watching that here. I'll call it out if I take it. Yeah.
This is that reset on the RSI that Tesla really needed and was kind of alluding to earlier when it was pretty hot. RVol is still pretty good on this Space Monkey, so I think it was like, with the exception of maybe last Friday, it was like 3 Fridays in a row Tesla was like a really big trade.
Yeah. I'm watching to get in here soon. I'll have a pretty clear stop.
Cool. Yeah, just interrupt me if you need to call it out.
Yeah, I'm in here, guys.
Okay.
347.50 as I took. And my stop will be at 1. So I caught those at 183. I'll have a stop at 1. So sizing down just a bit to have a wider stop. I'll still cut it if SPX start making new lows or whatnot. It's just, I think SPX might be putting on a nice higher and low here. What looks like a cup and handle on the 10-minute near lows. So I think this one might attempt to start pushing to 81. And then above 81, we could see a bigger move. So let's see how it plays out. But sizing down small. So small is not my smallest position. Lotto is the smallest. Usually lottos are sized to 0. This one I'll consider a stop
Nice. Yeah, and something for those listening that we discussed earlier on the stream is while the market, may be a little bit more difficult to play, on bounces, individual names, there's nothing overly concerning or changing about the structure of the market or fundamentally. So NFP out of the way can act as a way for certain names to emerge as leaders and do what they're going to do, while the market might be kind of chopped up here and not really go anywhere super quick. Other names are, in my view, kind of free to do what they're going to do. So you're seeing Google defended super well, relatively strong. And then as soon as the market stops and pauses and is beginning to curl a little higher, it's almost right back to the highs, right? Apple, quick to bounce here off the lows. It's definitely choppy, but you're seeing, UNH as well. There's certain pockets of strength out there. And as long as the market kind of defends, you can see certain leaders start to emerge. So Tesla would be a great candidate for that with the catalyst today. It's reset really nicely intraday here, and it defended 344, 345 on dips. So if this begins to kind of pop through 350, we can revisit those 355, 356 highs, which is where +1 ATR is also at. And if there's any other setups that you guys want us to talk about while we're going through this, let us know. Any chart requests, we can chat about it.
And one thing worth mentioning here is that ES is in an SPX as well is in an active failed breakdown. So, right, it's still in that mode. And so as long as it's in that mode and showing some strength, one needs to assume that we should be moving higher in the direction of that failed breakdown. But it's all it's all about taking a shot, follow your plan. If things don't play out, then that's what it is. Just another trade.
All right. Somebody asked about AVGO. Would you consider this a valid turn? It's clearing a lot of structure to the left. So this is one that we just kind of painted the picture on not too long ago. I would say it is attempting to turn. So it's got a series of higher lows, and it's breaking over this previous pivot, 337. For me, I would want to see how price action reacts in this kind of box I drew here. That'll be pretty important. If it can, a lot of times you'll see these initially get a little bit of momentum through and then come back and then go. So I would look for something like that. But yeah, I would consider this a valid attempt to turn. You have higher lows behind you now. Just keep in mind that these are often very trendy. So rushing entries isn't necessarily ideal. It's helpful to see how it responds on subsequent dips. If it manages to hold dips, continue to hold dips well from here, then that just adds fuel and conviction to the trade. So looking good so far. I would be using shares, favoring shares, or more time further out contracts on plays like this. The risk reward's pretty good. So stops on something like this, it'd be completely invalid to trade under 331 lows. But a lot of times what I'll look to do, if I think I'm timing the turn properly, is risk the prior pivot. So like this pivot at 334.80, this is kind of the origin of that turn through this prior peak. So risking that, if it gets below that, then you have to kind of wait for another higher low to set up, and then wait for another kind of setup to emerge. But it depends on how aggressive you're looking to be with size. I'm personally just sitting on hands here, monitoring UNH. So I have an active position in UNH, 1/2 left on the 315s from yesterday, and then swings on BABA, UNH, and Tesla. Somebody asked about Docu. Was Docu a give and go? Yes or no? Let's look at it. So they had earnings today. I actually forgot to look at this one, Space Monkey. You mentioned it in our pre-market prep.
Can I just Tesla, I'd like to see it break that previous 10-minute candle here on the sequence.
Okay.
It's sitting in a bit of a triangle here. So if it breaks above that, 340, 850 area. I think we could target that 350 test. Let's see.
Yeah. I would add that if Tesla, breaks this sooner, like in the session, so like in the scenario where it didn't break here and it broke lower, it will probably still set up again. It'll just take longer. But the thing that would be really positive about it breaking now is that characteristic is one of which that is more momentum based and can tell you or give you a clue that it's wanting to stay aggressive on the day and is even more likely to get back to 355 if it does it in less time. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but all right. Docu. All right, so Docu, is this a give and go? Yes or no? It is. So one thing I would add, like just the textbook definition of a give and go. Usually the move on the open is immediate down. What happened to this? Oh, there we go. Okay. Usually the first move is immediately down caused by an imbalance, but if you have a little bit of a tail or wick, you can still, the same type of structure is common, and it still can create the same kind of trade. So yeah, this would be an example of a little bit more of a momentum based one. So in the examples that we were talking about earlier, there was some consolidation here, but like the most aggressive entry you could have is breaking over the prior bar here. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen properly. Okay. But there was a little bit of consolidation. So what you can look at is, this breaking the consolidation higher for your entry, right? So you have your first move down on the open, following a gap up. And I would also mention pretty sloppy pre-market structure. So we have a playbook, a pre-market structure playbook available to members that you can check out. This is in the category of kind of a sloppy, what I call sloppy pre-market structure or no pre-market structure, where it's not really trending, it's not really setting up a flag or a wedge or some kind of clear consolidation, and instead it's just kind of ping-ponging all over the place. A lot of times you'll get give and goes with that type of structure. So, I would be looking to get long here, risking the pivot 79.89. You might be able to take a little bit of profit. Your main target for the give and go is the opening high. Either like in this case, you can see like if this didn't have the tail, it got perfectly to that. That's the origin of a give and go is based off of an imbalance that happens. I think some of these names that are a little bit more spready do have these wicks, like we talked about on MDB. They can kind of be a little funky at the open, but this would be your main target or the opening wick high. And so you likely get a little bit of profit taken off into that, but then this one didn't really turn into too much, right? So this is an example of one that probably because of the variables wasn't really all that great, but you are correct in saying that, that's a give and go setup. So nice call out, nice way to identify that. I am sharing my screen on X. I suppose I could on Discord. Space Monkey, you want to give me the keys to the kingdom, or do you want to have your grid up? Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, no, all good here.
All right, you guys should see it. Sorry about that. UNH, new high a day. These calls are starting to push a little bit. They're now in the money, so up 150%. Could probably look to roll up here. Give me one sec. Our swing is back to break even on the 320s that we've been holding for what feels like an eternity. So it's a nice cash flow op. There's a lot of UNH for the swing. I'm watching this closely here. I want to see if it can pop over this 316.40. That is that high from August 18th, I want to say. Yeah, Monday, August 18th high. See if we can pop above. So while we're watching this, this is like a quick little lesson on before taking targets, and this is very nuanced or discretionary thing that I like to do. If you're thinking about, give me one sec. I need to clear my throat. If you're thinking about taking profits, something I like to do if something is strong is be a little greedy, almost in a more positive way, or light, meaning that, okay, so UNH is testing 316.40, looking to secure profits on this, but knowing that this is a very key level, there's a chance that it could pop and accelerate above. So what I like to do is, while risking maybe a little bit, giving a little bit back, look at like this prior bar and just give it a second to see, okay, do we get the pop above, which premiums will expand quickly, not in our case in the money, but they'll move very fast. And you can kind of ride that winner a little bit longer just by making a little bit of a discretionary decision to see, okay, does this push through? So right now it's pushing through, and I'm just going to kind of bar trail it. And the reason for that is like, I like to say in my mind, like, give me a reason to sell, right? And my reason might be super micro, nuanced in this moment on 5 bars, right? Like it's contextual to where you're at overall in the trade, at least for me. And like right now it's like, okay, this is looking great. It's breaking key level. I could sell right now and take profit into that level. That could be valid. But what if, this strength continues and it just kind of explodes through that level? Then I'm just going to be able to capture more profit by waiting just a little bit. So I'm fully ready to take profit on this, but I'm also saying to myself, hey, if it wants to keep going, I'll let it keep going, and see if we can squeeze some more profit out. And the way I'm quantifying that is just with a 5-minute candle to see if it can hold. A couple of chart requests out there. We'll get to those just in a second.
I think SPX is attempting to ramp up here as we're getting out of lunch hour. Need that 81 recovery and go, but so far looks like we can get another attempt at that. Just took some off here, guys. Just took off some Tesla. Around 30%.
Nice. So I'm just like waiting for UNH to tell me what to do here. Let's check in on Gamma real quick here. Yes, so if we can get through 92.5, 95, Space Monkey, that's going to be kind of a pretty nice opportunity for a reversal, just so you know.
Okay.
A little bit of ways away from that, but Charm is still very suppressive here, so
Suppressive.
yeah, bounces can have a harder time. Doesn't mean that we can't go higher, it's just likely to be slower. I wonder if I can pop this out. I think I need more screens, Space Monkey.
You do. At least 5 more. All right, so while you do that, so nice first target Tesla met here around 349. I would like to see a break of that 350, just like what Mateus. Recover of 350. I'm starting to target a squeezier move towards 355 and high day actually. For that to happen, we'd need the market to put in a aggressive move above 81 into that 95 that you just mentioned.
Somebody asked a question, when are you planning on publishing the Gamma playbook? It's a great question. We would probably get a version 1 out relatively soon. There's a lot of fun things that we're working on. Actually, one of the things that we're working on, we'll just do like I'm going to make an announcement, but we are going to be officially making a more hands-on like Accelerator program, kind of like a mentorship program for the equities and options space. So there's a lot of people that have, including on this Q&A, have asked some really good questions and are clearly, starting to put the pieces together on trading, and some people that are just maybe need a little bit of a nudge to build their trading business, in a more professional way. We're working on working on that. So we'll have a full detailed course. It's going to be probably like 20 to 25 videos, in depth, everything that we do and how we approach the markets, including the playbook. And then also exclusive kind of like one-on-one calls with myself, scheduled in there, weekly reviews, monthly reviews, that kind of thing. So that is something that we are officially working on. I'll make an announcement to the group probably a little later today, but you're hearing it first on stream. So I'm actually super excited for that. We've done some things like that in the past, and honestly, that's how the stream originally started, was like as a beta, to just stream what I was doing every day. And then it's obviously evolved into more than that since a couple of years ago. So anyway, putting together something formal for that, very excited. Look out for some more details on that later. All right, so UNH is pushing up here. So again, like I'm ready to lock profits, ready to roll. But if it wants to keep going higher, I'm just going to let it keep going higher, right? In doing so far, these premiums have now just pushed like another 40%. We're up 220% here. So like as it's getting a little bit more aggressive, this is just, again, kind of purely discretionary. But like I'm now going into like the 2-minute. So I want to be locking into strength, and you don't have to do things this way. I'm just, so how I like to do it. Just want to see if we can hold this pivot and keep pushing, and then I'll look to lock. We've got ATR coming up here. I think, what did I say, 319.80? Yeah, 319.80. So we can roll up to, like 320s. We have the 320 call for October 3rd. That is a break even at the moment. A 320 call space swinger, 25 cents. That's
Oh yeah.
that's cheap. If you remember last Friday, we had a good UNH call on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So HB, I'll, keep you updated, but J Money has done a great job of putting together example setups for the Gamma playbook, and this is about my 1 year anniversary almost of studying and looking at the Gamma every day. So we're definitely due to put something a little bit more formal out. There we go, UNH.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting, man. Can't wait to get into that with you guys.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just watching Tesla here. You can see that it's just relatively strong here. It's relatively strong as SPX popped, and now they're selling into that 75 area. So we're still in a consolidation of sorts on SPX, on SPX, while Tesla is making grounds out of its consolidation. Now, the top of this consolidation on Tesla would be this, I'm just going to say 350. It's actually a little bit below, like 340, not 50, but 350 recovery would be best. I'm looking at the PM high on Tesla is what we just regained. So we've dipped below the PM high. It started looking like we would move towards the lower end of the PM hours and get back profit, but buyers stepped in and pushing it back above PM high. So that within itself is pretty bullish price action.
Not to cut you off, Space Monkey, I just want to call it that I just locked the UNH call at about 270%. So all out on that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's worth interrupting me for. That's great. So bullish price action Tesla. Let's see if we can get some help from the market. I think that's what it's all about. If SPX bounces here again, I think Tesla could test 350 very quickly. So
very nice. Very nice. Okay, so UNH does like a textbook example of what I was talking about. Like, it's highly discretionary for sure, but trying to, like, if 316 is a target and you're looking to take profits, just using some kind of quantifiable way to sell other than just hitting the target, which I do think is valid, but there are times when something like UNH is that strong where the likelihood that you might push above it is elevated. So in doing so, the premiums at this point when I was talking about that were up about 150%. And by waiting and just kind of trailing it and getting this pop, we locked in like 270%. So, and obviously those are 0 DTE, so they're way more volatile, but the point still remains that, just in a little discretionary decision, you can squeeze some more profit out. So little nuance is something I like to do. I don't know that I've really talked about that too much before, but. All right, so let's see if we can get a roll up on UNH. The Tesla looking fantastic. Let's see if we can get over that prior peak you were talking about. Guys, I've got to look. I'm looking at the 320 and 317.50 calls. Again, these are, they're 0 DT, high risk, but super small size. I'm viewing the trade from yesterday to today as more or less like cash flow up for that big picture trade, which is the swing trade October 3rd, 320 calls that we're holding. Those are now still break even, but UNH looking very good here. Tesla pop. What's the market doing? So see how the market just keeps like, these pops just keep getting grinded lower. We're going to need to either see the positioning change or it work itself up to that 95. If it gets over that, then it becomes a very different landscape.
SPX 101 to the upside here. Watch that break up the previous 10-minute candle. Setting up here. SPX 347's trading around. They trade around 270 there for a sec. Let's see if we can get them to 3. I'll probably take some off around 3.
What's UNH doing? See if we can get these cheaper. Come on, Tesla, do it. Do it for monkey. Let's see if there's any other questions, guys. If not, we can look to wrap the Q&A up. There's chart requests on Meta. Let's pull Meta up here. Let's see what we got going on. Meta lagging. So I talked about this in the daily market recap yesterday. What you'll see in bullish markets like we're in, a lot of the mega caps will kind of take turns and rotate. Amazon is an example of that yesterday. Nice kind of a bit of catch up. Google is obviously leading. And then Microsoft is pulling back now when it was leading before. So you'll see a lot of this just kind of taking turns of sorts. And a lot of these names. Meta, as it currently sits, looks, okay. Let's just clear up the chart and rechart this. Tesla?
Still some Tesla here.
Tesla popping, yeah.
350 regained here. These premiums are starting to move here.
Nice.
Sorry to interrupt you, mate.
No, good.
There we go, Tesla. There we go. That's it.
All right, so just a quick look for those that might not be in our room. Just give you an idea of how our alerts come through. So you can see we format the alerts like this. You can see Space Monkey just calling out the sell, the 1/3 on Tesla. We grade each position, small, B grade or A grade. That's pretty much it. I just wanted to show that. We have a commentary section where we'll call out commentary throughout the session. The alerts will also come through here so you can follow along what we're doing. And we have our trading chat, which is a members area to call out, different trades or chart requests, questions, that sort of thing. The infamous futures channel, J Money the God. Let's see, that's pretty much it. One thing I'm noticing, Space Monkey, on this Tesla is the RVOL kind of found, equilibrium and that's starting to push up. So that will be a very interesting end of day trade if we see the volume start to come in to this toward 355. Could be an end of day squeeze candidate if it gets there.
Definitely.
We'll look for we'll keep an eye on intraday bullish divergence to set up too on any dips. Right now it's just healthy.
Yeah.
All right, see if UNH can give me an entry. All right, guys, I'm going to get a 317.50 call on UNH with the count challenge. Getting filled here at 64 cents. 317.50 call. ATR is over 319. So I waited for that to get a little bit cheaper and just a roll up, no real risk risking some profits. Let's see if we can push up the ATR. If we can do so, those should move nicely.
Come on, Tesla.
Do it. This is that move we were talking about. If it does it early enough, it could get really aggressive.
Guys, these calls are trading near 4, okay? From 185. Or 180, whatever.
183.
SPX setting in, putting in a bit of a 111 here within this cup and handle in the 10-minute. I'm pointing to my chart that you guys can't see on the live, but members can. Targeting 81, above 81, we can see a fast move to 500. Perhaps even the closing price 502. Tesla's showing us that, we're starting to do, we're starting, to see signs, right? NVIDIA near highs. Apple once again recovering that PM low, now pushing towards 240. The tick is healthy, it's nicely positive. You have advancers, decliners throughout the day, getting sold into since the open, but now stable near 400. And then more importantly, I would say the VIX is seeing potential move lower here. Still green, but off the highs around 17. We're trading around 1580 here. So all in all, we're starting to see like internals looking a little bit better. I would like to start seeing some of the stocks that were strong earlier in the session, very early in the session, regaining some of the strength. And then I would like to see, and this is kind of like what I look for, some of the weaker names getting stronger as well. And if you do see that, I think that would be a pretty good sign for a possible push higher, or at least no more lows. So let me take a look at Tesla.
Oof, Tesla's getting squeezy.
So I might be taking off some here soon.
It'll likely set up more than one time today, guys. I might consider trade near 355 if it sets up for me. Guys, UNH 317.50 calls moving quick. Obviously, 0DT, so they're going to be volatile, but up 50% here.
Securing some more here, Tesla 347.50s rather, around 410 to be exact, from 183. Funny.
Guys, what we're talking about earlier is playing out here. S&P hard to really move much, but stocks are free to do what they're going to do. We're seeing leaders emerge. Tesla's looking good. UNH looking good. Google looking good. Anything else that you guys see out there, call it out. Let us know.
Yes, Tesla. There you go. There you go. They're ripping it back up to the high of day. Likely. There's some resistance here that I'm watching. It's the top of the, you can see it on my screen here, members. the top of the value area for the day, which is currently still developing. So we'll take it for what it is. Around 352, we're attempting to break through it. These premiums are really moving here, hitting almost 5, I might take it all out here soon and just roll perhaps into some 352.50s or 355s.
Yep, I put, just so you know, I remember I took the screen, but I did throw the value area on there so people can see it.
Thank you.
Tagging that right now.
Yeah. It's looking really squeezy here, but there's resistance here. JM in the chat is saying that Tesla had intraday bullish on the dip into 345, also strong bullish on the 30-minute, so and the 1 hour actually. So that's pretty good information.
Yeah. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, if you look at, it's a 10 minutes, probably 10 or 15, you could probably see it. Let's see. I believe this is, let me go to 15. J-Money, are you there? Are you around?
Yep, I'm here.
Cool. So is this, where, can you just explain that? Were you looking at the 15-minute for the intraday, or were you looking at 30?
15, 30, and 1 hour, all of them have it on there.
Okay. And you're talking about this dip at 12 to 345, the secondary dip?
The first dip around 11
EST. Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Yep. So when you have this massive run from 332 yesterday, then it doesn't, typically it doesn't.
I think J-Money's kids took over the mic.
So it doesn't usually take a whole lot. We had a pretty big sell in the morning on Tesla, so it doesn't usually get very, very reset and oversold and bullish very quickly. So if you look back into some of those prior areas, you can see it 30-minute and 1 hour even going back to like 338. Those areas is the comparison. So pretty nice RSI on that morning sell.
Very nice, sir. I wasn't sure if you were comparing.
Just exit it.
But, yep.
Sorry, just to call it out because we're doing this live here.
Yep.
Just exit it. Pretty much everything I'm holding to for Glory at 550.
Glory.
From 183.
Somebody asking about the UNH calls. You can certainly scale out on the way, guys. Those are up almost, well, they were almost up 100% there. I'm holding a little bit. I'm trying to see if we can get the ATR. It's free. I'm willing to be patient with it. If you have multiple contracts, it's valid to scale some. The account challenge, only have one contract for that. Nice exit on Tesla Space Monkey. I feel like that's just a very good move, and then it's, even if it goes through 355, if like immediately, I think that there's going to be a trade that sets up at that spot, like 355, 357. There's going to be something that sets up if it gets there. So now you have cash flow to work with.
Well, it's the first 10-minute candle high that I'm exiting here. So
okay. Yeah, I see
that's
it.
the first
precisely.
spike. Yeah. I always look for that first because that was the high day. They sold into, and then they came back and broke into new high day. Right. So if it breaks that, you'll get to the high day likely.
Very nice.
I will look for a roll. I don't know if it's something you want me to call out here. But,
Yeah, caught up. Yeah.
okay. I'm watching a 352.50 call entry using probably 20% of gains from the 347. I would love a check back into like 350, but just around 351, 350 area. I would go long there. I think SPX is looking good. It's a bit choppy, and the way Tesla's acting tells me that my bias is more up than down. But I would need a little more validation from some of the other names, right? I would like to see Apple do a little bit better. Nvidia start moving. Right now, we're not seeing that. So they're hitting Tesla here, but nothing else that I'm seeing aside from UNH. But I'm not really accounting for that much here.
Google is relatively strong. That maybe like the only other one, maybe.
But Amazon near lows.
Okay.
Yeah, Microsoft near lows. Nvidia's kind of just chilling and doing very little. So we'll see. I think we caught the Tesla move, and now everything else is plus. It's like if we start pushing to higher day. Okay. All right. That was good. That was really, really good.
Yeah. Nice work.
Premium's looking good.
Still holding. It's pretty darn hot on the 10 and 15, but it's looking good.
Yeah. That might have been a dip. Who knows? But it's very strong.
All right, let me double check and see if there's any other questions. Got a little distracted on that. Let's see. Somebody asking about AVGO calls next week. So it's AVGO is putting in that turn that we talked about earlier on the stream. So this is what you want to see, right? That consolidation within this box and a turn out of it. So for me, it's valid above the 330, really 332, really low of day, big picture. But this prior pivot around like 334. Let me look at the calls. I'm gonna be fairly patient. I'll likely just wait for the day 2 trade next week. But the setup is valid. I think a move back up to this opening low print around 350 will be a good target. This 350 calls for next week are trading about 4. As a day trader, even with shares, it's a pretty textbook playbook trade. You wouldn't want to see it dip back under that 334, 335 pivot. What you'd want is just this to continue to trend higher throughout the session. You're likely going to get a daily that has a tail on it, if so. The only word of caution on have or say with this is this big of a move often takes longer to establish a turn. Not always, but it often is the case. So you have to keep in mind, big picture, it's a little bit of an exhaustion gap into the catalyst. The catalyst was very good, though. So all in all that being said, for me, I'm okay just staying a little bit patient, personally. But I like the thinking of taking a turn. You're seeing S&P guys just continue to get these pops sold. It's exactly what you would expect in suppressive charm like this. And it only increases in its weight toward the end of the day. Sorry, go ahead.
Just rolled Tesla 352.50s at 140. It's a roll up using 20% of gains from the previous strike. Another trade or entry for roll would be a backtest of 350. Momentum is pretty strong still here, so I'm going for it.
Nice.
So this is sized to 0. So if the position goes to 0, I'm okay with that. That's what I sized for here.
guess I'll be right back and step away for just a sec.
All good.
All right, I am back. All right, so any final questions from the group? If you guys have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to hop off the live, take a little break. About the midpoint of the session, then we'll get back in for the end of the day. See, checking all the places. No, I can't find it. What the heck? What play would you call a failed breakdown or fade or something? Oh, VST. What would you call VST today? Is the question. Was there a catalyst on VST? Vistra Corp. It looks like failed breakdown on the daily. It's a technical trade, so I would categorize it as a technical setup unless there's a catalyst I don't know about. Just looking at it quickly here. So you have price consolidating on the daily, and then you do have this prior pivot low here at 181 that trapped. That's also paired that where it actually bounced off of is this 178, which I haven't charted this in a long time, but is a previous all-time high and local high from June. So you got a bit of a failed breakdown, technical bounce off of that. So you'd look for a reclaim here. This would be in the technical category, again, unless there's a catalyst I don't know about. If so, I'd categorize it as a catalyst. Then failed breakdown. Your entry is on the reclaim of that 181.30 spot. This does have elevated R-vol today, which is a positive. If you're looking at any technical setup, it does have some volume in the pre-market, which is interesting. So I guess while we're on it, let me check the wire. Let's check Benzinga, see if VSTS news. Some options trading activity. That was Wednesday. So maybe some things going on this, but yeah, I would consider it a failed breakdown. Good job spotting that. That's nice. Easier for shares. All right, somebody, good question from ours truly. What makes TWI different than other communities? How do you help shorten the learning curves for individuals here? Spaceman, are you still there, by the way? Just checking.
I'm here.
You're
Yeah,
here?
just
Okay, cool.
focused on the trade. But yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
up?
no, you can stay focused on the trade. So I think the biggest thing that makes us different is that we were all kind of previously doing our things in our own communities not too long ago and decided to join forces for the specific reason that we can provide more value together than apart. One and two, no one's really that we've seen, anyways, take that approach where we have a very professional approach to trading, trying to merge a little bit of what like the prop or professional prop world might do into the retail space as trading, continues to grow in popularity and more people are interested in learning how to make money. There's the career path, going to like a prop firm and learning how to trade there, and then there's there's a lot of different paths, but then there's trying to do it from a retail perspective, and retail gets a bad rap a lot of times, and so what we try to do is blend the two a little bit and take a professional approach, and we do so in a way that combines not just one person's thoughts, but a handful of very experienced traders that have been around for over 10 years doing this very actively. So I would say what sets us apart the most is that we have a lot to offer from a value perspective in that way, and just the day-to-day operation it's very systematic and more of a professional approach than just I'm buying calls today, or so it's just kind of, there's a lot of speculative information out there, and we try to take a very defined approach, if that makes sense. So that would be, I think, it's the main thing. And then we package everything that we do. So like we're still learning and growing. We don't claim to have it all figured out, but as we do so, we are constantly developing our edge. So like you heard us talk about the Gamma playbook, for example. I used to kind of dog on trading S&P specifically, and then products like options have come around and just provide such a unique visibility into what's going on, and it's a much more quantifiable edge than previously. So this is something that's not been offered to retail traders in the past, and so with that, that's something new in the market. That's something that's a new development that retail traders previously are not able to see, and therefore comes with it more edge. So where we're different is we're always looking for where edge exists and adapting to it, because that's the game that we play. The markets are constantly evolving. They're constantly becoming more efficient. And while there might be some setups that, work in, multiple trading environments that have stood the test of time, there's more unique edge that is constantly evolving and changing. And we do our best to be on the cutting edge of that, and just asking ourselves the question, what's working every day, what's not working, and then shaping our playbooks around that and trying to maximize value, not only for ourselves, but obviously for everyone else that's following along. So good question there. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Swiss Monkey. I know you're focused over there, but
I think what sets us apart that we're pretty fun too.
I think, yeah.
No, but we try to.
J Money's pizza in the morning is. We've got jokes.
Yeah, don't let everybody know about that joke.
Oh yeah,
You
sure.
have to be a member,
That's
so-
an inside joke.
Yeah, it's an inside thing. No, but as an aside, like I think we try to be super serious about what we do every day because we're dealing with money, and so I'm super serious about it. The way we prepare every day I think shows that we are approaching this in a very pro way. But then throughout the day, due to the pressure that comes with trading, when things are slow or slower, like I feel that we have a pretty cool group where we could joke around a bit, and on a flip, when something happens, we'll just get back right into it. So I think it's a nice pressure relief system we have where everybody gets along really nicely. It's a really nice place to be, because if you think about it, we're spending a lot of time together throughout the day on live.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that chemistry, it's not going to work. But I think this one does.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. It's a very good point, and it's worth noting, as there's a lot of toxicity in this space. I think that's a big standout, right? Like we've got A players all getting along, and that's pretty rare to see. So yeah, watch that Tesla 353, guys. If it pop above that, it could get interesting.
Yeah.
Just scanning the chat here before we drop off.
That was a nice exit, Tesla, I think. And now we'll see the market is pulling back now, so it's putting some pressure.
Yeah. Market is giving those Friday vibes. Let's see, covered that.
If SPX breaks the 64 area, I think we see a bit of a pullback down to that 55 or lower day.
Yeah, let's take one last look here, at least for the public stream. What we're looking at from a gamma perspective. So we do have this peak. This influence is extending to 64.62. That can be supportive as dealers hedge against price moving lower. The charm is still suppressive with supportive charm below it. So in other words, there is support within this area of the market with that condor position still very much there and alive. So you'd want to see this area defend some support. In the scenario where you flip under 50, it's fairly razor thin below 40. So if for whatever reason you see 40 drop today, that could actually present a really nice opportunity for the downside. So keep an open mind. Thank you all that are on live for joining us, asking some questions. For those that are in the room, we'll be around, probably gonna take a little break here, but we'll come back on the live as we get to the end of the session, which we're getting closer and closer to that. About 2 hours left in the market. All right, guys, thanks Space Monkey and J Money for taking the time too.